is Tyler Sexton, and I am actually a physician. I graduated medical school in June of 2010, and I am specializing in pediatrics and then hyperbaric medicine. And my goal, I have cerebral palsy, and I've had 16 surgeries, and my goal is literally to tell people that you only handicap yourself by choice, and that that there's a purpose, and that God loves you, and there's a bigger picture than just a simple cure of medication, that there is a spiritual and an emotional aspect to that. And so I am invested in children, in these lives of these kids. Well, I think at an early age I noticed there was something obviously wrong. I couldn't sit up like the other kids or walk normally like the other kids. But I think that immediately with 80% of my life my back was on a gurney, and I had known something was different, and then I also had learned that that the only way I would survive some of these things would be through the grace of God. So I knew there was something obviously wrong with me, but my parents did a great job about making me be normal, or to be seen as normal. And I think the real moment that I realized that there was something wrong with my legs is I was coming home from preschool one day, and I was sitting there, and I had asked my mom what was wrong with my legs. And I was a huge Sesame Street character fan, and Mom was waiting for that day to come, and she didn't really know how to respond to that. And she said, "Why don't you go ahead and take a nap, and I'll tell you about it when you get back up." And so I took a nap, and she took Bert, my favorite character, and she cut both of his arms off with a butcher knife. And of course I woke up that day, and she said, "Oh my God," and I said, "Oh my gosh, what happened to Bert's arms?" And she said, "Well, Bert got in an accident, and both of his arms were lost in this accident. And that doesn't mean that he couldn't be Ernie's best friend and hang out with the Sesame Street gang, but there was something different about him, and that he was handicapped." And so I think that was the moment where it just kind of all came together, and allowed me to realize that I was different, but that I was okay with that. So it was an early age.
When you know you're going to have this little boy, what do? The first thing you do is you decorate the rooms in footballs and basketballs, and my husband loved to play basketball. He was very athletic. You dream about all these activities that you're going to do with your boy. And I think sometimes we forget as moms, because our pain we show so much, but men, Kevin internalized it so much that he felt like he needed to be strong, and he felt like he needed to provide for this family and to hold it all together and things like that. And so he was very strong for me, but I think one of the greatest gifts that he gave me are the times that he sat down and said, "I'm hurting, I'm in pain, I don't have all the answers. There is no manual that came with this diagnosis." And I think that it helped me to see him vulnerable and to say that I love this little boy, but I'm not sure what we're going to do with him. I would say that you need to look at your spouse. You need to love them for the things that they're given that day. Maybe that's all they have to give that day. I think that there's a lot of pressure on dads. I think there's a lot more pressure to be an all-pro dad, that they're trying to do it all. And so they need wives who are on their knees praying for them. They need wives that are encouraging them. And they need wives to tell them, "Hey, you're the greatest. I appreciate having an all-pro dad. You are my all-pro dad." And I would watch him with the kids. Tyler could not go out and play certain things that I would think, he can't play basketball, he can't play football, he can't go scuba diving, he can't do all those things. And my husband would say, "You know what? He may not be able to do those things like everybody else, but we're going to put a basketball in his hand and see what he can do."
This world will label you as handicapped, or they will devalue you. And what I've learned is people say no and God says yes. And what I've learned in my profession alone, a lot of people used to say, "He'll never be a good doctor, he'll never be a doctor, he'll never walk, never see, or do anything." And I've learned my disability gives me credibility. And I would look at these kids and these parents with those kids and say, they are special. And you'll end up learning more from them than they will from you, just because of their disability. And there is a purpose. And sometimes I thank God for cerebral palsy, because it has brought me closer to my walk with Him. It's taught me to truly rely on something greater, and that's been Christ. And I think that I'm not saying it's easy, and I'm the first one that can say I know how you feel and mean it, I've been there and I can understand. But I can also say that God shows up in an amazing way. And I've always said you have to walk the rocks to see the mountain view. And there's going to be rocks. We know that. And you might be living in a valley or a rocky place right now, but you'll be amazed at what rocks you're walking that all of a sudden God turns into a mountain view. And that's what cerebral palsy has been to me. And in a lot of ways, that's what your disability may turn into being. Or it might bring your family together in a way that you never could imagine.